Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, welcome to another edition of Someone You Should Know. Okay, I know you're looking at me and saying, wait a minute, he's a little out of character, because I usually have on the KVGI media shirt and all that kind of stuff and look professional behind the mic. I am in my White Sox regalia today. I'm wearing a very special jersey also today from one of my biggest fans, Frank Thomas. This is an autographed jersey. It's worth a fortune to me, especially. But this is kind of what today is all about. I have got a very, very special guest, and we are brought to you today by the folks over at No Sweat Experts. You know, it's still hot out. We still got some summer before we get into the fall. Then we transition into the fall and winter. Reach out to No Sweat Experts, because if you need to have your air conditioning and heating system checked out, they are the pros. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. They'll put you on a maintenance plan that you will absolutely love. And also a big shout out to Christine Dean, the DFW networking diva, who is the producer of this show. Thank you very much, Christine. Okay, folks. I have mentioned on my show more than one time that I have been a diehard White Sox fan ever since my dad took me to my first game when I was 6 years old. And I followed them when I lived in the Chicago area. I tried to follow them as much as I could when I moved away. Then the magic happened when my daughter got hired by the Chicago White Sox. I was in seventh heaven. I used to go to games whenever I was back in Chicago to visit with her, and I used to see a mascot running around the park and all, named Southpaw. And anybody that goes to major league games of any sort, there's usually mascots now. Wait until you see who I have got on this show with me today. Carrie Norwood. Carrie.
Hey there.
Folks, if you have ever known who Southpaw was or any mascot, can you believe that this gorgeous young lady portrayed mascots in total from college on into the professionals? What was it, 16, 17, 18 years?
I lost count. It was about 16, 17, 18 years.
It is incredible. And I happened to be back in Chicago not too long ago, and my daughter Jory said, "Dad, I got tickets for a ball game. Let's go." And while we were there, all of a sudden, off the elevator and past the window where we're sitting, comes Carrie Norwood, and Jory jumps up and Carrie jumps up, and and Jory says, "You have got to meet this young lady." And I said, "Okay,
fine." Thank you for calling me young. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, next to me, everybody's young. but she said, "You won't believe it, Dad, but that's Southpaw." I said, "No way. That's Southpaw?" So how did Carrie Norwood get interested in this mascot thing?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. Those moments in life where it just happens. There was just this sense that I needed to be a mascot performer, and I don't really know how to describe that feeling. It was just like the aha, like, yes, that's my path. But it all started back in college. I went to the University of Iowa, and there we had Herky the Hawk, who was the official mascot for the University of Iowa for 40 or 50 years. And a fraternity had portrayed Herky for that whole time. Well, the end of my freshman year, the fraternity got kicked off of campus for, a variety of reasons. And one of my immediate thoughts was, oh my gosh, who's going to be Herky? Who's going to be Herky? And so I didn't think of anything, I didn't think about it again until I was sitting next to one of my teammates on the rowing team, because I was a rower in college for my freshman year. And she was reading the student newspaper, and she said, "Oh, hey, they're having Herky tryouts." And it was that feeling of, I need to be Herky. I'm going to be Herky. And so I looked at the audition information that was in the newspaper. I went to the orientation, did the interview, put on the suit at the audition, and I got the part. And so I did that my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then when I graduated, I thought, oh, that was fun. It was a nice little thing to have on my resume for when I. And then I was working for a radio station in Chicago, and the lines were slow that day. And I just happened to search on the internet Chicagoland mascot auditions, and the Chicago Blackhawks were hiring. And so I was like, oh, okay, I mean, maybe I can make some money off of this. So I sent in my tape, my VHS audition tape, because this was that long ago, and sent in my resume and went in for an interview, put on the costume. They hired me a week later, and I was like, wow, cool. I'm a radio DJ and a professional sports mascot. And I didn't know a thing about hockey. I knew a little bit about the Blackhawks. So I started studying the game, kind of learning more, just so I knew when I should actually be cheering and when I should not be cheering. And so I did that from 2003 to 2004. And then the NHL had a lockout in 04 to 05. So I would just do a couple of events here and there. And one of those events was at some convention where the convention had all the different sports mascots there. And it was shortly after Southpaw, the mascot for the White Sox, was, introduced. And so I met that current performer, got to know him a little bit. And then he called me in May of 2005, a very important year to White Sox fans. And he said, hey, I have to go to a wedding. Would you fill in for me as the mascot? And most mascot performers jump at the chance to try on someone else's costume. You get to, be someone else. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And during our orientation with him, where he showed me where I was going to be going, how to put on the costume, he said that he was going to be turning in his 2 weeks. And so I said, well, give him my name, give him my number, and, if they're interested. And it all went very, very quickly, very quickly. I did the game on a Saturday. I think it was May 14th. I'll have to go back and check. But it was a Saturday. The White Sox called me on Monday and said that they're going to be looking for a performer. And I went in for an interview on Thursday, and I got hired on Friday. So in less than a week and a half, my life totally changed.
Going back to your childhood, were you into acting and performing? And I know that you were very, very athletic. You lettered in a lot of different sports, even through high school. But I mean, did you perform? So I mean, did you have that gift of being able to do this, or you said it would just boom, it was out of the blue sky?
I am very, very lucky to have two amazing, wonderfully loving parents who put myself and my siblings in every single activity, club, sport possible. So growing up from the age of 2, I was in swim lessons. I would do gymnastics. And with gymnastics came, some dancing and very, very basic tumbling. I mean, I'm almost 6 feet tall, so I'm not the level of gymnast who's doing, triple flips and, Arabians and all those other things. But I was in dance when I was really young. And then came the acting. I really enjoyed being on stage. I loved musicals. I loved watching musicals. And so it was everything played a part in me becoming a mascot performer. And I think it was very helpful. Another skill that I started in college was I took American Sign Language as my foreign language. And so I was able to use that with mascot performing. Hi, it's nice to see you. So it's those little things that I would just kind of draw upon to make my performing stand out a little bit more. I was a musician. And so I played low brass from, 5th grade through almost my entire high school. So I knew beats.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible dancer outside of a costume, but in the costume, I was told I wasn't that bad. So
Well, I guess what this is adding up to is that your movements that you did through sports and the movement that you did through acting and through music and everything, you had like a little bag of tricks, and
Oh yeah.
they all added up into things that you could do, and thank goodness for that fraternity being kicked off campus.
Yeah, really. I
After
mean,
after 40 years, they controlled the mascot for the University of Iowa, and all of a sudden they're out, and
and
Carrie
I'm
Norwood
in.
steps in.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I remember that moment very, very clearly. I remember I was at my freshman year dorm and someone came running down the hallway. The Delts are hammering off their letters. And the Delta Tau Delta fraternity was right across the street from my dorm. And so I went running down the hallway. And sure enough, I look out the window and I see former fraternity members hanging out their window, hammering off the big Greek letters that were, on their house. And it was that moment, that I had described that was just, it changed my life.
So,
And
well, wait a minute. Those guys, if they're not here anymore, what happens to Herky?
yeah,
Got
yeah, it's me. And it's really amazing all of the cool things that I've been able to experience because of that moment.
and do you think that your involvement at the University of Iowa was really kind of that ace in the up your sleeve that you had when you went on to the NHL?
Oh, absolutely. If you're going to be a professional sports mascot, they want you to have some type of experience.
Yeah.
And me having the experience of dance, acting, the American Sign Language, I was the president of my sorority, so I could organize things and plan things, and having the Herky experience absolutely helped me get hired by the Blackhawks.
I mean, it seems like you were just in the right place at the right time on more than one occasion.
Yeah, and I went for it. And that's one thing, it's just one of the millions of lessons that my parents instilled in myself and my siblings was go for it. If there's something that you want, if there's something that you see, just try it. And I did. And it was amazing. It was amazing to be a mascot performer. So fun. I got to be part of people's lives.
Did you find that your height was advantageous as far as being a mascot?
There was definitely a benefit. It was nice because, I'm tall, and the gentleman who was Southpaw before me, we were very similar height. I remember being at Iowa. I think it was my senior year. There were maybe 6 mascot performers for us that year. And all of us were right around 6 feet tall, except for one. She was maybe like 5'4", and so it was so obvious when it was her.
The arms, the sleeves were a little bit long on the suit, huh?
Yeah. Well, the gross thing back then, when you're in college, usually you all have to share the same costume. And so on football games, when we all got a turn, you always wanted to be either the person performing pregame or first quarter of the football
I want
game.
the first quarter. I'll take the first quarter.
Yeah, because by second quarter, that costume is nasty.
And
just
also
so gross.
When you're playing a game or something in August.
So gross. It is. I mean, it is. So when you get to the professional level, you're like, oh, I have my own costume, But it's kind of like that rite of passage. You have to wear a costume that so many other people have worn, and then you can, have your own costume in the bigs.
For those that are watching and listening, I want you to take a few minutes and just tell people what it is like to be inside one of those costumes. From a temperature standpoint, from a movement standpoint. I mean, how heavy is the outfit, and are there restrictions, certain moves that you just can't do? I mean, from being inside, you must have a much different or the people from the outside just see this animatronic figure jumping around and doing things, but it's difficult.
Yes, it can be. And every suit is different. I've worn many costumes. Southpaw's costume at the time, I would look out of the mouth. And so if you can picture the big head, the eyes are up here. But if I had my head up straight, it would look like Southpaw was kind of looking up over everybody's eyes or their heads. So I had to pretty much look at everybody's shoes and knees. So I became really, really good at recognizing people by their shoes. And then that put some strain, a lot of strain on my neck. It's also obviously very, very hot. Ventilation. I remember doing some Southpaw appearances in the winter, and people would say to me, "Oh, at least the event is inside and in nice and warm in here." And I'm like, I don't want to be inside. I want to be outside. And same when it's hot outside. You need the ventilation. You need to keep going. So even if an event was inside the cold room, it usually wasn't very, very good, unless if it's so hot and so humid outside, then I would rather be inside. But also being inside the costume, besides the whole physical aspect of it, people tell you things that they may not have told Carrie outside of costume. And that goes several different ways. I remember a time Southpaw had been invited to a memorial luncheon. The family just put their grandfather they just buried his grandfather. And so they all gathered for pizza, one of his favorite pizza places. And so the family wanted Southpaw there because the grandfather is a big White Sox fan. And he was really close to his grandson. His grandson was about 10 years old at the time. And they just wanted to do something nice for him. And so here comes Southpaw at the luncheon, and everybody's so excited. This is a celebration of life for this gentleman who passed away. And the grandson got emotional, and I'm getting emotional thinking of it. But he got emotional. He got up, he came over and he gave me a hug and he said, "Thank you so much for being here. This means so much to my family." And it's moments like that where you're like, wow, this character is part of these people's lives. Another instance where someone told me something that maybe they would not have told other people was I was at a wedding. And at weddings, which I loved going to weddings because it's just dancing and fun and one of the greatest nights of a lot of people's lives. And so I'm at this wedding and a slow song comes on. So, I went and found someone sitting at one of the head tables, and she was an elderly woman. And so I invited her to come dance with me. And so she got up, and here I am slow dancing with a 85, 90-year-old woman. And she then says to me, "Thank you so much. I wasn't going to come. My husband passed away a couple weeks ago and I wasn't up for it, but I really appreciate you sharing a dance with me." And I was like, oh my gosh, that was really, just a powerful moment. It was nice to give her some joy on what I'm sure was a very, very difficult day for her. Now, on the other side of that, the funny moments of when people forget that there's a person inside, or, just because I go like this or like this doesn't mean that was a bad explanation. But let me tell you. So I was at a White Sox event at the ballpark, and there was a security guard standing, I think, by the third base dugout, just to make sure that fans weren't going into the dugout or down into the camera well. And he said to me, "Oh, hey, are you the girl that's in there?" Because some people knew, within the organization. And I go like this. I shake my head no. And he goes, "Oh, because the one that's a girl, she's really hot." I'm like, oh my gosh. It was just really funny. On that story.
Well, and also what people may not realize is that you don't speak.
Correct.
Everything that you do is in actions. And, when you think about a performer up on a stage, if they have dialogue, it's their actions go along with the dialogue. Well, take out the dialogue and you have to magnify those actions. So, if one of the White Sox players strikes out or something, I mean, you can't just shake your head. You have to magnify that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is you exaggerate. And the funny thing is that ever since the pandemic and people are doing virtual meetings, I've really noticed that I continue to do a lot of movements. I continue to be very expressive with my gestures. And so I just thought that was funny to point out. But yeah, in a mascot costume, you have to make sure that the people who are sitting way back, way tippity top,
You have to
that they
amplify
can
your
see that.
movements.
Yeah, they can see that.
Which that's part of acting, is you have to play to the back of the house, not the people in the front row. So the people in the back get benefits. So, while you may be standing on the dugout, the rows go 35, 40 rows back. You want to make sure that those people are entertained too.
Yeah.
I say that because personal experience, Carrie. I worked for the Disney organization.
You did?
Yeah, I was
What
there
did you do?
I was there 2.5 years. I was in the entertainment division, and I was at Walt Disney World when it was under construction. I was there for the opening day
How cool.
in October of 1971. And then I was there for another year and a half before I left the organization. But part of our training, I was in middle management, and I worked in the entertainment division, and we worked with everything from the musicians and all to the characters. And one of the things that Roy Disney, Walt's brother, wanted to make sure was that everybody in management knew what it was like for those characters to do what they did. So we each had to spend one day in a character costume.
Oh, fun.
And I was Dale of Chip and Dale, and entertaining out in Tomorrowland or something, and bouncing around. And folks, you have no idea how grueling it can be.
Yeah, you have no idea.
One of those. I don't know how it was for you, but at Disney, the characters that you see usually work about 20 minutes on and take about 40 minutes off.
Oh, I wish that's what we had.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. And at first you say, man, what a cushy job. You only have to work 20 minutes. You needed those 40 minutes being out in the sun, running around, in order to recoup and get ready to go back out. So I was going to say to you, how much time out of every hour, when a game would run, a game would run maybe 3 hours, how much time did you spend, on stage, if you will, and how much were you allowed to get off stage in order to get to hydrate a bit and cool down and get ready?
Yeah, every game was different. We didn't do it based on, the hour. It was kind of just based upon where Southpaw's schedule was scheduled to be. Some games, maybe I was in costume for an hour and then I get a 5-minute break, but that break could be just me not being in front of people. And I could, I'm in the tunnel, and that's my break, is walking to the next place I had to go to.
Okay.
I remember there was one time it was so incredibly hot. I don't think I had very many breaks built in at all, but I remember I was in the tunnel and I was very, very confused. I needed to go to the restroom, but I wanted to take a break and I needed some Gatorade stat. And I could feel the confusion coming on my brain and my body. They were starting to fail me. And so I just started taking off the head in the tunnel where no one else was. There were no fans down there. And I was just started, asking my assistant, like, I need something to drink now.
Hyperventilating.
Yeah. It was a scary moment. And I had another moment like that at an event. I remember it was like 4:00. It was still 104 degrees. I was at some church gathering, and everyone just wanted one more picture. And I had it. I had already overstayed my time. I was not feeling well. I started getting that anxious, like, all right, I got to get out of here. I need some fresh air. I need to take this thing off of me. And they also had at the event at the time, like, the world's best basketball handler. She was there as well, just teaching kids some tricks. And she caught on. She goes, oh, no, Southpaw needs to leave now. Southpaw definitely needs a break. So she kind of helped get me out of there because I didn't have one of my assistants at the event. But it was very, very scary to feel that dehydrated. Once you are not sweating, that's when you have a problem. And those were two situations where I remember I was not sweating anymore.
Right. And you said you always had an assistant or somebody from staff that was with you to take you from place to place?
No, at
Oh,
games
really?
at games I did, but
Oh, okay.
I did not have my own assistant with me. So I was Southpaw from 2005 to 2016 in February 2016. I didn't have my own assistant going to events with me for probably the first 6 or 7 years that I was Southpaw,
Wow.
maybe 5 years. So I would show up to events, birthday parties, weddings, street festivals, as myself. And so I would ask my point of contact for the event, hey, can you not tell people that I'm Southpaw? I don't want to like ruin the fantasy of a
Exactly.
mascot performer. And I said, by the way, I also need you to be Southpaw's assistant. So here are my list of things that we're going to be doing, and just make sure that, I'm all good. And everyone was, okay, sure, let's do it. And then I finally got the assistants, because it was kind of like, maybe this is not safe that I'm going to these events by myself. And the White Sox were like, oh, absolutely. Yes, we definitely need to have someone help you out. So
Well, and talking about how strenuous the job was, again, that's maybe where your athletic abilities at a young age and all came into play too, because you got to climb stairs. You're sometimes I know from seeing other mascots, you're climbing over seats, you're climbing up on the dugout, you're jumping here or there. You have to have that. Did you have to continually like work out in between all the time? I mean, just do some kind of a routine in order to stay flexible all the time?
stretching is very, very important. And I would say I was at the peak performance when I started doing yoga. I did yoga for about a year, and it was fantastic. I was in great shape, and at the time, I think I was mid 30s. And I would say I was in better shape in my mid 30s than when I was in my mid 20s, before I started like my professional mascot career. Yeah. So I do want to say one story. You mentioned how you had to be either Chip or Dale for the one day.
Yeah, Dale.
So, so the White Sox would always host a holiday party and for the employees. And one of the best parts about the holiday party was a video. It was a music video that one of the departments would get to be part of, and the game presentation team and the scoreboard team, they would usually edit this together. And so they had asked me to be in the video, not Southpaw. But the whole joke was that Southpaw was going to be in the video. Southpaw was then going to move his head, and I was going to be standing behind it, just to kind of confuse people, to see like, oh my gosh, who's actually in the costume? Carrie never lets anybody in the costume.
Right.
And so when we were filming it, and I don't think I've ever actually told anybody who was inside the costume. It's still a secret to this day. At least I haven't said anything. So my coworker who was inside the costume when we were filming this, and this is in front of no one, except for a few staff members there. And he's in costume for maybe 8 minutes. And he yells out, I got to take a break. I don't know how you do this. I got to take a break. And it was kind of his dose of what I do on, multiple times a day, almost every single day of the year, really, with the games. And I would do, I think the most appearances I ever did outside of games in one year was 338 appearances. So my weekends were stacked. I think the most appearances I ever had in one day was 7. All of those being between
All in one day.
Yeah, all starting, 6 a.m. at some run or walk. I think I did a store opening, a parade, and then 4 weddings. I think 4 weddings. And then I found out a week or 2 later that I was pregnant. So it was kind of like
Yeah,
wow.
and I in readings over information about you, I think you were Southpaw, the mascot for the White Sox, when you had both of your children.
2, yeah, I now have 3.
Okay.
But yes, so my first child
And
was
so
born.
how long did you perform as the mascot until you finally said, I think it's time to take a break and
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
baby?
Yeah, my first kid, I was 5 months pregnant when I stopped performing for a couple months. And then I restarted 3 months after she was born. And then with my second child, I was 4 months pregnant. And then I came back same, 3 months after I delivered him. So, yeah. It was a great way to lose that pregnancy weight. Let me tell you,
Well, but I'm also thinking that while you're pregnant and everything, it's hard enough just to move with this massive suit on, and now you're adding extra pounds every week.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. At that point, I think, the baby is like this big, size of an orange. I don't remember what it is at 5 months. So it wasn't that bad. But then shortly after that, that's when it would, become, I think, noticeable.
when you were performing, were there ever any scary moments? I mean, something where something kind of just went wrong?
There was a situation when we were playing the Yankees, and I was on top of the Yankee dugout for the seventh inning stretch. And it was one of Southpaw's birthday party games, because I remember I had this big, giant, birthday hat that I had made. And sitting in the front row was a fan who had this just really incredible straw looking hat. Well, you're going to wear something like that in front of a mascot. Of course, the mascot should take it. So I did, and I put it on top of my big, giant, oversized party hat. And he did not like that. And so I thought it was hilarious. I think everyone else around, but he was just not feeling it. And so he grabbed me by my belt and he yanked me off of the dugout.
Oh.
And I didn't fall like on my feet and then I tumbled. I fell straight from the dugout. From the dugout down onto the stairs that were there. And
stairs.
On the concrete stairs. I had the padding, but he didn't. Because as I fell, we got intertwined and he fell on top and then over me. And it was like slow motion. I see his head starting to go towards the stair. And so I shoved my hand out to cradle his head so he wouldn't get knocked out on the stair. And then he, got up and he starts swearing at me. And so I get off the dugout and I, go to security and I'm pointing at him and I pull one of the security guys and I actually told him what happened. So there were already security coming down the stairs to first of all take him first aid.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if he got kicked out or whatever, but that was one scary-ish moment. But really the fans for a whole were fantastic to Southpaw, even in other parks. Because we would go to Major League Baseball would have all of the mascot performers from the team go to the All-Star game every year. And so that's how I got to know all the other guys at the other teams. And it was a great little fraternity.
It is still fascinating because I want the people that are watching and listening to realize they probably have all been to sporting events, or it doesn't even have to be sporting events. Almost any event you can go to NASCAR. You can go to all kinds of local events and state fairs, and there are people that are performing in costume, and we take it for granted. I think sometimes, certainly the kids love it. I do know, having gone to a lot of events, that sometimes the kids think that Southpaw is such a cute figure until it gets in their face.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden
freak out.
Tears come down and Southpaw is trying to give me 5 or whatever, or you're crying, and I'm okay. And the parents are saying, it's Southpaw. Come on, let's go get a picture with Southpaw. And so you have to kind of be a mediator in some of those circumstances.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. That there it never fails when there are tears from a kid, and usually it's met by laughter from the parents because they're like, "Oh, come on, this is so funny," and then they hand me the kid still, and I just have the kid out here as I'm holding on to the kid. But it's expected. I understand. It's some people don't like clowns. Some people don't like mascots. So I get it. I understand.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the mascots in professional sports are female mascots, female performers, if you will?
I don't know the numbers now, but there was a point in my career with the White Sox where there were only 2 women of NFL, NBA, MLS, all of the big leagues. And it was myself and another Major League Baseball performer. So it was kind of cool. And we would walk in at the All-Star game and it'd be, guy, girl, guy. And then people who didn't know which characters we were, they're like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it? Which one is it? So we would sometimes swap shirts and I would wear another team shirt just so they wouldn't know that it was Southpaw from the White Sox who was portrayed by a female.
Well, for the benefit of a very dear friend, Lauren McCogran, I mentioned her name because she was a mascot here in Frisco, Texas for the Frisco Rough Riders minor league team.
Oh, cool.
And we've had that discussion about the fact that people just kind of assume that it's a guy inside that suit because of how difficult the job is. But I got to tell you, I think that it's really a great career for somebody that maybe wants to perform and do something. I guess the hardest part that I always had, and just that hour that I spent as Dale, to come up with moves and things to do because you're expressing yourself in action without talking and conversing.
Yeah. I don't know why more women don't do it. You'd have to ask the women who've never performed. But for me, I saw it as a great opportunity to be creative, be active, and have that theater background, but also connect with people. And that's why I wanted to be a mascot performer. I love to entertain. So ask some women who've never performed. Ask them why they don't do it. And I think you probably get a wide range of answers.
It's acting. It's another acting role that you can go to. I'm going to ask you another question in a minute. If Christine hears me and she can pop up on the screen or something, people have probably been hearing us talk about Southpaw and they don't know what is Southpaw. There's Southpaw.
Yeah, he's a fuzzy green dude. He's not an alligator, not a moldy sock. He's just a fuzzy green dude that loves the Chicago White Sox.
He's only a moldy dude if you're the third one in the costume that day.
Yeah.
But now in that circumstance right there is, where are you seeing? Are you seeing out of the eyes or out of the mouth?
So out of the mouth. So underneath that big giant nose that's in front of Southpaw, there is like a little slit. And if you were to kind of pull that down, you would see the little red tongue. And my vision was out there. So I'm not seeing the photographer. I don't see the people that the photographer is sitting next to. I'm probably looking at the person sitting in the front row, the top of their head.
Yeah. So your field of vision is very, very narrow, both vertically and horizontally.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So how is that with having to contend with steps, going up and down steps and looking for little ones that are coming down the steps or beer cans or whatever that are on the left?
The steps were actually easy because I could see the steps. It was if people were trying to give me high fives. I couldn't see the high five. So I'm sorry to anybody that I may have inadvertently ignored your high five. I probably just didn't see it. But because of that, I became really good at when I would walk, kind of using those moments of shifting my head to see that coming. And if I put my hand up to give someone a high five, and if they weren't there to give it to me, I just play it off like, oh, okay. All right. And I, keep going.
And in addition to playing Southpaw, which you did for many years, you also didn't you do something with the Harlem Globetrotters?
No, I was never Globey. I actually, I would say in about 2005, 2006, I knew a gentleman who had been Globey. He was one of the other Chicagoland mascots. And
Gotcha.
he took some of us other Chicagoland professional mascots to a Harlem Globetrotters game. And it was great. It was a great source of inspiration because the Harlem Globetrotters put on a fantastic show. Their mascot Globey, who is also just recently inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame, he's fantastic to watch. It's just a great character, really athletic and funny. And so all of us went to go watch the Harlem Globetrotters together as a little fraternity outing. But I was never Globey. I had been the Beatles' Blue Meanie. If you know that, so there was some convention that was in town, and so they were looking for mascot performers, and I remember putting on that costume, and the arms were such where I couldn't extend my arms all the way. I had to actually hold the arms like this. It was like this. So you asked about different costumes. This is one where it was literally me going like this. If I wanted to wave, I would just kind of go like this. It was odd. And another mascot that I put on, I was a Sorrento string cheese. So it was a tall thing of string cheese.
Well, you're 6 feet tall. Why not?
I was about 9 feet tall with that costume. But that was a fun one because it's like, what kind of personality does a string cheese have? I don't know. So I made one up.
Well, before we have to get off the field, you joined the White Sox in June of 2005, and for those diehard Sox fans, that was our magical year. So, talk about being in the right place at the right time. You got to not only be with this World Series champion team, but you traveled with the team too and got to go to some of the playoffs and everything. Was that exciting or what?
It was amazing. And I like to tell people.
And that was only the second year they had Southpaw, right?
Yeah. So really, mascots are good luck charms. And I brought the good luck to the White Sox. So you're welcome, White Sox fans.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was great.
You mentioned earlier, and I didn't know it until I started talking with you and Jory and some of the information. I didn't realize that there is a mascot, a professional mascot Hall of Fame, you were just inducted into it.
Well, I was not actually inducted into it, but Southpaw was recently inducted. He was part of the 2022 induction class, along with Globey from the Harlem Globetrotters. And a couple of years before that, Tommy Hawk was also inducted. So I have two of my
Tommy Hawk. That's the Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks mascot. Yeah.
Tommy Hawk. Get
Tommy
that?
Hawk. So two of the big, my main characters that I portrayed are in the Mascot Hall of Fame. So next year I'm going to push for Herky to get in because I feel like Herky absolutely deserves a spot. So then I'll work on the string cheese guy the next year.
Because you got a little bit of influence there, right?
No, not it's a fan vote. It's an open fan vote. So my vote would count the same as yours.
Well, I'm from Chicago, so I'll vote many, many times.
Okay.
Carrie, you are an absolute delight. I can't begin to thank you enough. I am so glad that I was in the right place at the right time at that game. And Jory said, I want you to meet somebody, because it's been an absolute pleasure sharing your story. And what's the future hold for Carrie Norwood? What are you up to now?
Yeah, so I left the White Sox in February of 2016, and I now work for USO, which is the nonprofit that supports the military community. USO strengthens America's military service members by keeping them connected to home, family, and country throughout their service to the nation. So I lead the community-based programs in the state of Illinois. And I love every minute of it. It's fantastic.
I salute you for that, because as a veteran, I took advantage and still support the USO, and took advantage of the USO when I was active duty. It's a phenomenal organization doing great work for our veterans.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I pinch myself. I'm like, am I really here? Do I work for the USO? And the answer is yes, I do. And it's a great organization. So thank you for those kind words. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule and all to be someone you should know on my show. I always end my show by saying, be yourself, because everyone else is taken. And that's how I feel about you. You are an inspiration and an absolute delight. And thank you for being my guest.
Wow, thank you. I'm very honored that you asked me. So
And I
thank you.
look forward to seeing you at the ballpark again sometime.
Sounds good.
Well, that'll do it for another edition of Someone You Should Know. Go out and make it a good day. And next time you're at a ballpark or something and you see the mascot over there, think about this young lady and about what it's all about to be inside that uniform. So go out, make it a good day. Thanks again, Carrie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Someone You Should Know.